Have you ever felt like you're just kind of walking on eggshells, in a relationship? Or maybe you're the one who always seems to end up making all the decisions.
Yeah.
Well, today, we are going to go deep on two skills that are really interconnected, and they can honestly make or break a relationship. And those are assertiveness and decisiveness.
You know what's so interesting to me about assertiveness and decisiveness is that they often get kind of like lumped together, but they are distinct, but they also really complement each other.
Yeah.
It's like having two sides of the same coin when you think about navigating those healthy relationships.
Right.
You know?
So,
Yep.
okay, so let's just start by defining exactly what we mean by assertive and decisive, because I think there's a lot of confusion out there. Like people mix it up, especially with assertiveness, and they think it's aggression,
Yeah, for sure.
which it's not.
Assertiveness is definitely not about like bulldozing your way through something.
Right.
It's really more about, confidently and respectfully expressing your thoughts, your feelings, and your needs. Think of it more as clear, direct communication, that honors your own needs while still like respecting the other person.
So, using an example from our source material on assertiveness and decisiveness, imagine, your partner's a workaholic,
Yeah.
And their tendencies are really leaving you feeling kind of neglected.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just bottling it up or snapping at them, an assertive approach would be something like, I value how hard you work, but I feel that we need more quality time together. Can we discuss ways to balance this?
Yeah, that is a great example because you're acknowledging their perspective, but you're also stating clearly what your needs are.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side of that decisiveness is the ability to make choices like in a timely manner and just take action, take confident action.
Hmm.
It's about moving forward without getting stuck in this analysis paralysis that can sometimes happen.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Like when you're planning a vacation and you've been going back and forth on destinations for weeks,
Oh my God.
and
Yeah.
you're just like, a decisive person might just say,
Mhm.
we've both been stressed lately. How about we choose a relaxing beach destination? If you're okay with this, I can book the arrangements.
Exactly. And it's about taking charge and making things happen. And this key, not in like a domineering, controlling way.
Right.
It's a collaboration,
Yeah.
where both partners feel comfortable with like how decisions are being made.
Yeah, this is making me think back to a past relationship where I struggled with being decisive.
Uh-huh.
I was so worried about making the wrong choice
Oh, yeah.
or upsetting my partner.
Sure.
And now looking back, I'm like, oh, my lack of decisiveness
Huh.
probably caused more tension
Probably.
than it
Yeah.
solved.
Yeah. And, and that is a great point, and it highlights exactly why both of these skills are so essential in a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
When you're not assertive, your needs might not be met, and then that leads to like resentment and bitterness.
Right.
And when you're indecisive, it creates uncertainty, and then conflicts just drag on and on and on.
Yeah. So it's like one helps you communicate well and the other one helps you to actually take action and then move forward
Yeah.
together.
As a team.
But I can imagine it's easy to get confused between being assertive or decisive and being controlling.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That is such an important distinction.
Yeah, what's the difference?
Control is about manipulation and dominance.
Okay.
But assertiveness and decisiveness are rooted in respect and collaboration.
Got it.
So it's not a power struggle.
Okay, so red flags. What are some signs that someone's crossing the line?
Yeah, well, our source material on assertiveness and decisiveness gives some pretty clear examples.
Okay.
Controlling behavior could look like dictating every single move your partner makes, or using guilt trips to get your way, or even making threats.
Oh, wow.
But healthy assertiveness and decisiveness, that's about setting clear boundaries about your personal time or finances, or working together to find solutions that benefit both of you.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do we connect these concepts to the bigger picture? I'm curious about those psychological and sociological theories you mentioned before.
Oh, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting because there's so many theories that can help us understand why these skills are so vital in relationships.
Yeah.
Take Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example.
Oh, yeah, the pyramid?
Exactly, the pyramid. So think about it. When we're not assertive, we're basically stuck in the lower levels of that pyramid, constantly seeking approval and validation from other people.
Right.
But assertiveness, that's the key to unlocking those higher needs for esteem and respect and ultimately self-actualization.
Wow.
It lets us claim our place in the world and in our relationships.
That's a powerful way to look at it. So What are some other theories that come into play here?
Well, there's attachment theory, which suggests that our experiences, like early on in childhood, can shape our attachment styles, and as a result, how we approach, assertiveness and decisiveness in our adult relationships.
That one really resonates with me. I've noticed in past relationships where I felt insecure,
Mm.
I was way less assertive.
Uh-huh.
Like I was afraid to rock the boat or something.
Oh,
And it's amazing how those early experiences can have such a lasting impact, you know?
it is fascinating, isn't it? And then there's social exchange theory,
Okay.
which views relationships through this lens of costs and benefits. We all want to feel like we're getting, as much out of a relationship as we're putting in.
Right. Like it's a fair exchange.
Yeah, exactly. Assertiveness helps make sure that our needs are met, and then decisiveness leads to, more efficient decision making. And both of those things contribute to overall relationship satisfaction.
So it's like finding that sweet spot,
Mhm.
where both partners feel valued and heard,
Exactly.
and it leads to like a more balanced and fulfilling connection. And speaking of balance,
Mhm.
I'm curious about emotional intelligence and the role it plays in all this because I've been hearing a lot about it lately, but I'm not sure how it connects to assertiveness and decisiveness.
Well, emotional intelligence, or EI, it's all about being able to understand and manage your own emotions, but also being attuned to the emotions of other people. And what's really interesting is that being assertive and empathetic at the same time, that's actually a sign of high EI.
Really?
Yeah, it means you can communicate your needs in a way that's effective, but you're still considering how your partner feels and their perspective.
So it's not just about being tough and like getting your own way.
No.
It's about being thoughtful and understanding.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, between honoring your own needs and nurturing the relationship.
This is also enlightening, but before we get too deep into theory, let's shift gears a little bit and explore some practical tips,
Right.
for actually becoming more assertive and decisive in our relationships.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's one thing to understand it, but then putting it into practice can feel daunting.
Totally.
Okay, so we've like laid the groundwork, explored the concepts, the theories behind it all.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about the actual doing. Like how can we actually become more assertive and more decisive
Right.
in our relationships? Because it's one thing to understand it, but actually putting it into practice,
Yeah.
that can be tough.
It can be tough, and you're right. It's not always easy to change those patterns,
Right.
especially if you've been, kind of taught to avoid conflict or you're a people pleaser. But the good news is that just like any skill, assertiveness and decisiveness, they can be learned and strengthened over time.
So it's possible.
It is. It's totally possible. It's about building those new habits and kind of like rewiring those neural pathways in your brain.
So where do we even begin? Like what's the first step to becoming more assertive and decisive?
Well, our source material on assertiveness and decisiveness, it really emphasizes the importance of becoming a better listener.
Okay.
It all starts there. Like before you can even think about asserting your needs, you really need to understand where your partner is coming from. Like you've got to really hear what they're saying, and maybe even more importantly, what they're not saying.
Yeah. I can see how that's like the foundation.
It is.
If you're so focused on getting your point across, you're not really understanding where they're coming from.
Exactly. Active listening. That's key.
Yeah.
Put aside those assumptions and judgments and really tune into their words, their tone of voice, their body language. It's all about empathy and understanding.
So once you feel like you have a good grasp on their perspective, then you can start using those I statements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I statements are so powerful, for communication. They let you express how you feel and what you need without blaming or attacking the other person.
Right.
So instead of saying, you never listen to me, you could say, I feel unheard when I share my thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
It's a really subtle shift, but it can make a huge difference.
It really takes the focus off of blame.
Totally.
It puts it on your own experience.
Exactly. It's about owning your feelings, and taking responsibility for them. And along with those I statements, it's also super helpful to be clear about what you want to get out of the conversation. Like, what are you hoping to achieve? What does a win-win look like for both of you?
So you have to have an intention before you even start talking.
Exactly. And, it's helpful to even tell your partner what that intention is.
Okay.
You could say something like, hey, I want to talk about this thing, and my goal is to find a solution that works for both of us.
So it's like a team effort.
It is. You're inviting them to be your partner in solving this, rather than making it like you against them.
So it's not about one person getting their way all the time. It's more about working together
Exactly.
to find solutions,
That feel good for both of you.
which makes me think about compromise.
Yes.
Because it's not about winning or losing. It's about finding that middle ground
Absolutely.
where both people feel heard and respected, even if you have to let go of some of your own preferences.
Yeah, compromise is so important, and it really takes, being flexible and open-minded, but sometimes even with the best intentions,
Yeah.
even with good communication, it can be hard to actually put this into practice.
Especially if you've spent years not speaking up or avoiding tough conversations.
Right, it's like you're unlearning old habits and rewiring your brain, and in those cases, it can be really helpful to talk to a professional.
Okay.
A therapist can help you figure out, what might be holding you back and give you some strategies to try. And it's a safe space to practice these skills.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we all need a little extra support.
For sure.
But even with help, you have to be patient with yourself. Change takes time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's about progress, not perfection. And one of the best ways to make progress is to just start small.
Okay.
Pick one area of your relationship where you want to be more assertive or decisive and just focus on making little changes there.
So baby steps are good.
Baby steps are great.
Okay.
It's all about building those confidence muscles over time. And remember, practice makes perfect.
Right.
The more you use these skills, the easier they will become.
This has been so helpful.
Oh, good.
I feel like I'm seeing assertiveness and decisiveness in a whole new light. Now, it's not about being bossy. It's about showing up as your true self in your relationships and honoring your own needs and your partners.
I love that. And I think that's a perfect way to transition into our final thoughts, as we wrap up.
As we wrap up this deep dive on assertiveness and decisiveness, I'm realizing how important these skills are for a balanced and fulfilling relationship.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about, avoiding conflict. It's about building respect and understanding with each other.
Yeah, so to recap for our listeners, what are some key things we want them to remember from today?
Okay, well, the biggest thing is assertiveness and decisiveness are not about being controlling or trying to get your way all the time.
Right.
They're about respect, collaboration, and finding that balance between your needs and your partner's needs.
So moving away from that me versus you and more towards we're in this together.
Exactly. And remember, developing these skills takes time and practice. Don't beat yourself up if you make mistakes. Just be patient and open to feedback. And don't be afraid to ask for help from a professional if you need it.
Yeah, and remember those steps we talked about, starting with really listening to your partner and then using those I statements
Right.
to express yourself clearly and respectfully. It's like building a communication toolbox,
I love that analogy. It's like you're giving yourself the tools to build a stronger relationship.
And one of the most powerful tools, in my opinion, is emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
The more self-aware and empathetic we are, the better we can communicate and make decisions together.
Couldn't agree more so. As we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a little challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Think about one relationship where you could be more assertive or decisive. It doesn't have to be romantic. It could be a friend, a family member, a coworker.
Good point.
And once you've thought about that relationship, ask yourself, what's one small thing you can do today to start practicing these skills? Maybe it's just taking the time to really listen to them. Or maybe it's speaking up about something that's been bothering you. Even small changes can make a difference.
That's a great reminder. It's not about changing everything overnight. It's about those small steps that add up over time.
Exactly. And remember, we've only scratched the surface today. The source material on assertiveness and decisiveness has a ton of information and tips if you want to learn more.
It's a journey, but it's worth it. So until next time, keep those conversations going, keep an open mind, and keep working on building those healthy and fulfilling relationships.